So my initial intentions for this, admittedly, was to. By the way, I'm using my phone, so I do apologise. But my initial intention was to sort of clip stuff from the committee. I presumed that there was some committee that was recorded, posted, whether it be Scottish Parliament TV or YouTube, etc. Can't fucking find any in the publication that the headlines all seem to be referring to. Came out on Friday, so it is what it is. Nonetheless, it's kind of one of those things where I'm a bit torn, because unless I am missing something here, I really do not know why there's such hyperbolic headlines. Telegraph, Daily Mail, etc. And I've seen quite a few YouTubers speaking about it as well. For example, just this, abortions based on sex of babies could be legalised under plans considered by the SNP. I will come on to the PDF in just a second, which is fucking like 166 odd pages long. I'm not going to get that time back having a scan through that. But regardless, I am yet to see something. Again, unless I am missing something, I am yet to see something substantial that could justify some of these headlines. And that isn't to take anything away from some of the fucking waffle that was being expressed throughout said PDF. But regardless, abortions based on sex of babies could be legalised. But I mean, at the end of the day, and I'm not a big advocate and or proponent of, abortions and whatnot, but at the end of the day, you don't exactly need to express why you're having an abortion to have an abortion, so there is that, So if it's illegal right now for sex selective abortion, but your intention is to have an abortion based on the sex of the child that you're gonna have if you don't have said abortion, you just don't admit it. That makes sense. There is that. But regardless, so zoom in a bit here, right? So it says women could abort babies based on their sex under reforms being considered by SNP ministers, campaigners have claimed. The practice is illegal under the Abortion Act, 1967, because it is not one of the lawful grounds set out in which a woman can have an abortion. However, a report commissioned by the Rainbow Unicorn government recommends flipping this approach by establishing an automatic right to an abortion. And an automatic right. That's what I mean. There's a lot of crap pottery in that PDF. But as far as the headlines and whatnot are concerned, we'll get to it. Right. Where was I? Sorry. Flipping this approach by establishing an automatic right to an abortion and listing a set of scenarios where it would not be allowed. The expert review published on Friday said any future legislation should not include any explicit prohibition on sex selective abortion. So then we have Professor Annie Glazier, who chaired the review, who says that the group believed it was unnecessary and potentially harmful to explicitly prohibit the practice, going on to say that there was a lack of evidence of it taking place in Scotland, adding that enforcing it would also be difficult because it would require intrusive and inappropriate questioning of those seeking an abortion. Okay. Raising concerns that it would risk racially profiling women from particular communities. This, again, more crap pot, yeah. Where sex selective abortions is thought to take place. Would risk racially profiling women from particular communities where sex selective abortion is thought to take place. She also explained that denying a woman an abortion on the basis of such concerns would be compelling a woman to continue a pregnancy she wanted to or was being pressured to end, potentially making her more likely to seek an illegal backstreet alternative. Or she could just fucking lie. Again, I don't know how I feel about this. You know what I mean? Anyway, deeply alarming. Opponents of the review have described the recommendations as shocking, with Jeremy Balfour, a former Scottish Tory MSP, who now sits as an independent, going on to say that the proposals are deeply alarming. They would allow selective abortion right up to birth. An extreme departure from European norms that puts women at risks and leaves unborn children with no protections at all. Scotland should be supporting women, not creating a system where a baby's fate can be decided solely on whether they are the right sex, right? So, to cut a long story short, more or less, this is the review, and I will post the link below. Feel free to go through it your fucking self. Review of abortion law in Scotland, November 2025. Okay. And just going to scroll down. As I say, there's a lot of pages here. A lot of pages. But a few things to note here, and this is what I'm saying. I'm unless I am missing something, and if I am missing something, then I do apologise, but I'm a bit confused. So, it goes on to say here, decisions regarding abortions over 24 weeks gestation should be made in good faith by two healthcare professionals who must agree that the abortion is appropriate except in cases where an abortion is immediately necessary to save the life of that pregnant woman, in which case one healthcare professional may make a decision. The grounds for an abortion after 24 weeks gestation are amended in an updated Abortion Act to the following. An appropriate trained registered healthcare professional is authorised to provide an abortion for a person who is more than 24 weeks pregnant if the healthcare professional decides in good faith that performing the abortion is appropriate, and the healthcare professional has agreed with one other registered healthcare professional that performing the abortion is appropriate. Right? So again, even this, some of the sort of throwaway takes from people, it's going to be like abortions, like after up to birth, anything over 24 weeks is all going to become legal. I don't see what they're talking about. Unless I am missing that, I do not see what they are talking about. And I've gone through the PDF. Ad nauseum, by the way, to my detriment. Scrolling down a bit further, because using my phone's a bit of a bollock, admittedly, but it is what it is. Early medical abortion. Medical abortion which takes place, that's just descriptions, fuck's sake. Here we go. Notes on language, this bit, by the way. Again, crap pottery, yeah. In this report, we use a number of terms to refer to those who need and access abortion. We primarily use women, since the majority of individuals who access abortion are cisgender women and girls. And then they put in brackets, women and girls whose gender... Fuck's sake, oh God. Papa Putin, nuke me, daddy. Women and girls whose gender identity corresponds with the sex they were assigned at birth, and abortion is key evidence. Fuck's sake. Oh man. Then it says here, right, the WHO, and they are a very, very reputable organisation, of course. No malevolence at all at play when it comes to these lovely progressive individuals, right? That said, they recommended in 2022's guidance, or their 2022 guidance, that the governance of abortion should be removed from criminal law, abortion should be fully decriminalised, and third-party authorisation requirements and other impediments to clinical best practice should be removed, right? So it is kind of easy to extrapolate from some of the sentiments that are being fucking talked about throughout this PDF. It is very, very easy to see, on the one hand, where people are coming from when they're trying to imply or say or insinuate, even claim, even that if this report going forward, if the end goal is to completely decriminalise abortion, they just need to refer to things such as the WHO. But as far as some of the hyperbole is concerned in relation to sex selective abortions, I'm still struggling with that one, right? It goes on to say, gender equality and stigmatisation of abortion. Abortion is routine healthcare that is accessed by around 1 in 3 women. I'm not going through all this because, again, as I say, I'm using my phone, right? But again, it's talking about the Abortion Act, requiring 2 doctors. This is at present 2 doctors to judge whether a woman's decision to have an abortion is legitimate, right? But we calm down. This bit's a bit creepy, I will be honest, right? So, again, there's a lot of word salad here, which feel free to go through yourself, but they're talking about, gestational limits, etc. Going on to say, gestational limits may create barriers to services that impact on the most vulnerable women, including disabled women, migrant women, and young women, who may be deterred from accessing necessary healthcare. For example, disabled or young women may not realise they are pregnant until later, or have less capacity for early decision making. Gestational age limits remove control over women's health and fertility from the woman and her medical team, and in place in the hands of political decision makers who are not best placed to determine an individual woman's needs. Then says, the WHO, totally legitimate organisation, now you know what I mean? They recommend against laws and other regulations that prohibit abortion based on gestational age limits. So basically, the takeaway from that is if they have their way, and I don't doubt that in time they will have their way, given the fact that the vast majority of the fucking world seems to be dictated to and by the WHO and the United Nations, etc., irrespective of who the hell you think pulls the strings of the people that sit in the chambers of the United Nations. They are the fucking cunts who are basically pulling Scotland's strings, right? Anyway, and if they have their way, there probably will be no limit, but until such a time as I see that being fucking legalised, then again, stop, like, it's the history, as I say, But this stuff is really creepy, I will say. It's really creepy. I don't like the way it's been worded. I find it fundamentally odd, creepy. And there's a lot of other words I would say, but I'd probably get fucking banned. You know what I mean? I will give my 2 cents at the end of the video, right enough. But anyway, the need for access to abortion at later gestations remains for small numbers of women, regardless of law. Full decriminalisation of abortion and removal of time limits does not amount to deregulation. Abortion can be effectively regulated in other ways that ensure high standards of safe, high quality care. I don't really see what it can be considered safe or in any capacity high quality in terms of a care if it's past 24 weeks. I mean, to be honest, I think 24 weeks is pushing that a bit anyway, but that's there. There are other jurisdictions where no upper time limits exist, and where abortion is provided safely and effectively, where no upper time limits exist. I mean, I find it really odd that this is even being discussed, and I'm not one of these Puritans who thinks that, like, abortion in and of itself is fucking fundamentally wrong. I get it, like, there's certain, instances, albeit, they're few and far between, but there is certain instances where, it needs to occur and whatnot. But I fundamentally disagree with the concept of people, and a lot of people do it nowadays. They treat abortion as a form of fucking contraception. If you don't want to get pregnant, stop shagging about. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. But we live in a day and age now where it just seems to be the case where everybody loves a bit of tomfoolery and whatnot, and consequences occur from naughty actions at the weekends and whatnot. and people just, well, I'll just get an abortion, right? And then you always hear the what about it? Oh, well, what about incest? What about rape? They make up a tiny, tiny fucking fraction, percentage-wise, of the overall abortion rate, right? Abortions in Scotland are, well, I don't know about this year, but the last few years have been record high. At the same time, we've got record low birth rates. Simultaneously, by the way, we've also got a record high population, right? Because of migration. So any fucking attempts to try and advocate for more lackadaisical laws in relation to abortion, I think should be frowned upon. Nothing to do with sort of being chauvinistic and, you know, trying to browbeat women and whatnot, right? Nothing to do with that, just on the grounds of, first of all, it's an unborn child, right? There is that, but in terms of like our longevity going forward, like, you know, serious discussions need to be occurring here, but instead of that, it's this cancer. Anyway, I am starting to lose my train of thought here a bit. So, come down a bit further. There was another bit I highlighted in my head, anyway. Sex selective abortion. Several submissions were made by faith-based and pro-life groups raising concerns regarding sex-selective abortion, noting that availability of early and accurate sex determination through non-invasive parental testing increases the risk of such practices occurring. Some submissions argued that while existing laws do not explicitly permit abortion and invasive sex, its ambiguity and the broad interpretation given to Ground C allows for such practices to occur, citing anecdotal evidence and media investigations suggesting that some women, as I say, I do apologise, use my phone here, but just so if anybody's losing where I am, some women may be pressurised into terminating pregnancies based on the sex of the fetus, particularly in cultural contexts where there is a strong preference for male children. A further submission on this issue came from Professor Maya... What? I don't know. Whatever. Who led a study on prenatal sex selection among BAMEs. In line with government data, with the study saying having insight into the views of the women in those communities, who overwhelmingly recommended that concerns regarding sex selection should not be used to justify funded specialist abortion services. Members of the advisory group, including Abortion Rights Scotland, argued that women should have the right to make their own reproductive choices and are best placed to make pregnancy decisions based on their personal circumstances. These may include a risk of violence and abuse. They also flagged a lack of evidence to suggest women seek abortion based on the sex of the fetus. That it would not be possible to police such an offence against sex selection practice, and that arguments in favour can be prejudiced against ethnic minority communities. I mean, they always manage to entangle fucking brown black people into this. It's not an ethnic and or a race issue. See, really, is it? But they always do it. Always find a way to talk about the poor fucking brown people. We're talking about aborting children here, but these people, brown children, Well, what about them? What makes them any less or more important than a white child? It's a child at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, maybe I'm a bigot. So, just going to come down a bit. Conclude this. The group agreed that it was unnecessary and potentially harmful to introduce a specific prohibition on sex selective abortions, noting the lack of robust evidence that takes place in Scotland, believing that any prohibition would be, unworkable in practice, requiring either intrusive and inappropriate questioning of all women regarding their motivation for seeking abortion or racially profiling. Anyway, finally, it was noted that the small amount of peer-reviewed research that has been given to women in ethnic communities has historically been practiced, found that they tend to support the eradication through further education and other initiatives rather than criminal prohibition. Specific concerns have been raised regarding coercion, with the group agreeing that any form of reproductive coercion, whether in favour of ending a wanted pregnancy or continuing an unwanted one, must be taken very seriously, with the group going on to again say that criminalisation would involve the possibility of... because I'm using my phone to my tits today. Circumstances... The group further concluded that criminalisation would involve the possibility of criminalisation of women seeking abortions on these grounds, and that under no circumstances was it appropriate to criminalise a woman who was being subjected to coercive or controlling behaviour. Right, sound. Anyway, the recommendations, this is where I'm going to leave it out, because I do realise I've been on for like fucking nearly 20 minutes, over 20 minutes now, Jesus. There's a lot of word salad, partly my fault, partly the PDF in question's fault. But recommendations. No specific grounds are required to access abortion care up to 24 weeks gestation. Decisions regarding abortions over 24 weeks should be made in good faith by two healthcare professionals who must agree that the abortion is appropriate. Recommendation 3. Grounds for an abortion after 24 weeks are amended in an updated Abortion Act. This remains to be seen what the fuck that's going to entail going forward. And that no specific reference is made to sex-selective abortion within any updated abortion legislation. So again, just to conclude this, I fucking do not agree with the idea of willy-nilly allowing abortions to take place. Right? But what I do struggle with, just to conclude this, is a sort of hysteria in relation to, oh my god, the SNP are gonna legalise sex-selective abortions. Where the fuck does it say that? Where does it say that? Unless I am missing something, I am struggling to fucking ascertain exactly where these people are coming from. Time and time again, in this dimwit country that we live in. And that is what it is. It is full of dimwits. Headlines appear, and people pounce on it, and they talk shit. And all that ever seems to come off the back of that is little lefties with blue hair and bull rings and whatnot, fucking debunking your talking points because you're talking shit. If you made it to the end of this video, fucking fair play, Anyway, adios.